Hello, hello. All right, today we are going to go over narrative, specifically the basics of a plot diagram with an example here. So just a reminder, narrative, what we're talking about is connected events or a story. So we want to make sure as we are writing our narrative that we are including then, next, after, before, all those kinds of transition words so our reader knows that the points are connected. All right, so there is a different video about the different types of conflict, but remembering every story needs some type of conflict. And then the rest of the story, specifically the exposition at the beginning, is looking at who's involved, what are they doing, right? What time period is all this happening, and where is it happening? So let's look real quick as an overview when we look at our plot diagram in terms of the conflict of the story, right? Or the narrative. So starting at the bottom beginning here on the left side, we have the exposition. This is sometimes called the beginning of the story or the intro of the story, right? So that is where we're introducing the characters and any information about the setting, all those sensory details, trying to immerse the reader. And then we run up into the inciting incident. The inciting incident where that star is the exact moment where our conflict starts. So this is where it appears to the reader. Now, this doesn't mean that it has to be like, hey, these people are now fighting kind of conflict, but it could be hinting at this is not perfect or something weird's going on here, right? This is the moment where the reader is clued in on, hey, this might be the problem or this could be an issue later on, right? Things start to build up from there, right? Or the momentum, they're jumped in the pool and they're ready to go now. So the inciting incident is the exact moment when the conflict appears to a reader when they first start thinking about that issue, and it's no longer just introduction or exposition. Then we have our rising action. Our rising action is known for the complications with this conflict. So that is either the characters trying to avoid the problem or they're trying to overcome it and they're stumbling, right? So if we're fighting a monster, we're trying to avoid them. We're running around the city. And that's what the rising action is trying to learn more about the monster while trying to run away, trying to survive. Or it could be, hey, we're going to try to throw rocks at the monster. Oh, it's too strong. That didn't work. All right, let's try throwing spears at it. Ooh, they just got stuck in some goop, right? Those kinds of complications in the rising action where we're getting more and more tension build up as we go, being like, oh no, are our heroes going to be okay? Are these characters going to figure it out? Right? And then we have the tippy point of our triangle, the climax, the climax. So this is the height of the tension, the big blow up moment where they have to face the conflict, right? Especially if your character was trying to avoid it, trying to run away. They have no option anymore. They have to face the monster. They have to face the fact they messed up, right? It's a moment of crisis. Moment of crisis, lots of tension. These are when the big battles happen in those kind of war movies where the music goes crazy, right? It's all that big moment. And it's put on the tippy point of a triangle because the reader doesn't know which way it's going to go. It's kind of teetering and tottering where if we thought, okay, our heroes are learning about this monster, they might be okay, or they're going through this, okay, they're kind of okay, or they're avoiding it, suddenly we don't know. Is it going to end well or is this story going to end bad, right? Are the villains going to win? We're not sure. It's on a tippy point. It could go either way here with the climax, where it could be really bad or it could be really good, right? But they have to face it. There's no other option in this moment. It's going to go one of two ways, is that climax point, the big height of tension. Then once we fall one way or the other on our triangle, we end up with the falling action. Now, falling action is not the end of the story, right? This is just the results of the crisis. So things like, okay, you saved the world as superheroes, but now there's still rubble where the town has to rebuild, right? Or, great, you had a screaming match with your friend, but maybe now you have to talk to your parents or your guardian about kind of what happened and why you're not friends anymore, right? So the kind of falling out, how the pieces fall because of that big climactic moment, kind of the final as things are settling down. We're not quite done with the conflict, but it's settling. Then our resolution, the ending bit of our story there. That's when there is no more conflict. That's the happily ever after, where the story concludes and there's nothing that's an issue anymore in relation to that one conflict. Now, people will say, well, what happens when they leave you on a cliffhanger? Or what happens with stories that maybe have multiple different conflicts and different subplots? So 100% you could do this plot triangle for a couple of times in a story, right? Where they think there's no problem and then suddenly there's a problem. Oftentimes when you're saying there's a cliffhanger, it means that they lead you up to a little bit of the exposition mixes in with the falling action resolution there, and they lead you to the next inciting incident. So you want to keep watching to be like, oh, what's going to happen, right? So that's normally what happens there. You can also do things where it's like, okay, there's a big triangle, and that's the overarching plot of like a big battle that's happening or a war in the background, right? And then maybe you have subplots, little smaller conflicts for specific characters. I would say when you're focusing on writing a narrative, try to focus on just one conflict and keep it in just this small one plot triangle. Don't go too crazy, right? And then once you have one written, then you can kind of play around with them. But for a first narrative, and some practice, really only looking to focus on one conflict. Right? That being said, let's look at an example. So we have our same plot structure there, but now we have my fancy little Bitemojis. All right, so starting out with the exposition here. All right, we have Miss Wilt. She's a little Bitemoji. She teaches English class online, right? Those are our exposition details of that. Okay, we know our character, we know what's going on, and then we get to our inciting incident, which is noted there. Our inciting incident is Miss Wilt wakes up to teach her class and sees that it's kind of a rainy day out. Now, our little Bitemoji friend here really likes sunny days, so it's like, okay, that's all right, gonna boost my spirits. We gotta keep going, even if it's a rainy day. That's kind of sucky, but it's all right. So, right? It's like, okay, but it's our first forewarning of, maybe today's not going to be so great. Then we have our rising action, those complications of Miss Wilt says, you know what? I don't like rainy days, but it's okay. I'm going to keep trying to teach. My students cheer me up. That's all right. Right? And then she has, oh, the students aren't listening in this class. That's extremely frustrating. So it's hard to teach when the students are acting up and not listening, right? And then in her next class, tech issues, things aren't popping up where they need to be. There's a window that just shuts down on her computer, and Miss Will is like, oh, I was just trying to have a good day. Now all of this bad stuff is happening. And then finally, in the middle of the class, when Miss Will is talking about something super, super important and nobody's even listening, her computer crashes and her dog runs and hides under the desk because now there's thunder and lightning outside. And Miss Will just gets so upset that she flips her desk and says, well, now I can't even avoid the fact that I'm having a bad day, right? Everything's going wrong. Everyone around me, including my dog, is upset, not really wanting to do English class today. All right, and that's our tippy point of our climax there is Miss Wilt flipping the desk. We don't know if she's even going to be able to get back on to teach her classes online, or if her dog's going to be okay, or is the weather and everything going wrong just going to consume our poor Bitmoji teacher and she's gonna be done, right? It's on that tippy point of, is she gonna be okay? Can she still teach? Is it still gonna be a good day? Or is the horrible things that happen in this day gonna make everything bad? Right? Then we have our falling action where we say, you know what? Can't teach. The weather's affecting my internet. Fine. I'm gonna go take a nap because I'm very frustrated and gonna get somebody else to cover classes who has internet and try to reboot my computer, but ultimately not expecting to get on today, right? Again, those kind of like falling pieces. Once we know our little Bitmoji teacher is not gonna let the day, the bad things around her overwhelm her. She's just like, hey, I need to take a break. I need to take a step back, right? That's the decision. And then those things start to fall in place of, okay, find someone to cover some things, reboot my computer, make sure the dog's okay, right? Those are kind of things falling into place. And then our resolution is that even after school time, the computer may work or it might get sunshiny again, but Our little Bitmoji teacher wakes up feeling in a much better mood and is ready to take on the following day and is preparing some lessons for their next class the following day. All right, so there's an example of just a little story when it would go with that kind of plot structure focusing on conflict. All right, now you're ready to write your own narrative.